So here you have your spotting tong switch, and when the spotting tongs are all the way open, this switch needs to be closed, needs to be on the high part of the cam here on the tooth rack. And if you ever take the tooth racks off, you got the tooth rack on the side here, you have the tooth rack back here that takes care of the 7, 8, 9, 10. Be sure that you mark them so that you know exactly where they were, because if you put them in, you take all the tongs off and you remove the tooth rack, and then you go to reassemble it, if this tooth rack is in the wrong position, you're going to have nothing but problems with picking up pins. So just be sure to mark them, the Sharpie or something, before you take it all apart, so when you put it back together you can get it all back to where it's supposed to be. So I'd mark it over here and then mark it back over here. I'll close the spotting tong so you can see. See, there's your other. So mark it in a full open position and then mark it there. You got to mark there. That way when you take everything apart you can put it all back where it's supposed to be.
So what happens if they're not marked?
If they're not marked, once again, you're going to be dropping pins out, especially if you have a spare pair of spotting tongs that are a little bit worn. They're going to be sloppy to begin with. Then if you're off a tooth here, you're not going to be closing as tightly around the neck as you should. Guaranteed to have problems. So just make it a habit. Mark them with a little Sharpie. If you're going to take the tooth racks off, I'd mark them anyway just to be safe. Because sometimes you think you're going to take a few spotting tongs off, next thing you know you've got a bunch of them off.
So if you have one that's off and one that's on, how do you get that in right? In other words, if somebody takes this one out and doesn't mark it and leaves it for you to take care of, how do you get that lined up? How do you get it timed?
Yeah. Well, the timing, from experience, you can, and of course you can always look at another pin setter, but there's usually just about a ½ an inch back here between here and that tab. But like I said, check, and you can also up on the front here. So get yourself some landmarks as to where they're supposed to be. But usually right about a ½ an inch right here is a pretty good starting point. And this one over here basically flush with this piece right here, which holds it from going back.
The end cap.
Yep. But that's only an issue if you're going to take all of them off and end up pulling the tooth rack off.
I think that's good. And there you have it. Spotting tong timing by Dave Johnson here at Texas Station.